You can see from the gun, it's had a lot of use. Okay, here we go. So what do I actually think of the W690 spray gun? Well, I've enjoyed using it. As for its performance, you know, the first one failed after 20 minutes. This one has continued working. You can see it's pretty battle hardened here, but the gun continues to work perfectly well. But what it is, it's a matter of finding the sweet spot of the amount of air. This is set at about half at the moment. Setting the amount of paint on the gun here, which can be a bit tricky, and I do find difficulty sometimes in cutting it down enough. And this screw tends to move on its own unless you're very careful. So what I did just now probably went on a bit heavier than I would have liked. But anyway, it's covered quite nicely. But the other thing that comes into the equation is getting the dilution of the paint correct. So this is cuprinol fence paint, and it really needs to be diluted about 10%. If you don't, it starts to splutter and spatter. Although it doesn't really matter for a fence. If you're doing something more delicate, like a piece of furniture inside, it really would matter. If you turn up the air, that stops, but then you've got huge overspray and the air full of spray. So what I found is, personally, diluting quite considerably, 10, even 15%, putting the air down to half and restricting the paint quite dramatically. But it's a matter of finding that sweet spot, and it seems to change day to day, temperature of the paint, etc, etc. So if I'm going to do anything really fine, anything delicate, like I'm going to do some cabinets for the kitchen, I'm going to spend some considerable time making sure that we're doing tests to make sure that it actually is spraying correctly. And I will have this full so that it will continue throughout the entire painting. All in all, I'm happy with it. The compressor gets very hot. The tube gets hot. And in fact, the other day when I was doing the fence, I feared for it because it was so hot that I thought it might actually melt. So I think when people have said, this is great for DIYers, etc., but not if you're doing an awful lot of painting, I think that's true. And I think, to be honest, with this gun, the finish you'll get is not going to be as good as a more expensive airless, such as a Graco, which I aspire to have. I would love to have one. But this is what I've got at the moment, and I'm working with it, and I'm going to do a cabinet from the conservatory, which is less important, and I'll share that with you when I do it to see how good a finish I can actually get.